Welcome to Chat and Chill. My name is Sean and I'm here to chat. I am so excited to be here. I cannot tell y'all how ecstatic I am right now. I have a special guest and he is my godfather, my godfather priest. He is a pastor, he is an educator. And I want him to kind of talk about himself and kind of get to know who he is because I know he has a lot insightful things. And he also is a doctor. So we got to learn about that. We want to get into a little bit about that. So you can introduce yourself.
Hi, how you doing? Sean, who I love dearly. Um, yes, I am a doctor, but I'm not a medical doctor. I'm
Oh gosh, I said that.
in yeah, in education. So we just want to make that clear. So it's not a good thing. But here I am, and I'm glad to be here.
Mhm. Yes, it's so good to have you. So I guess the first question I want to ask is like growing up, what was it like for you to grow up? Like where did you grow up? Like what was like the kind of story that you have?
hmm Well, I grew up in West Philadelphia, around 52nd and King Sesson. It was this pretty long story because I was born in Los Angeles, California. But when I was around 4 or 5, my mom moved. My mom separated from my father, so she moved to the East Coast, and from here we came to Philadelphia, not in West Philly, but we were in some part of Philadelphia. I forgot. I think it was East Lane. Anyway, we lived with relatives until my mom was able to secure a job. I went from there to New Jersey to live with relatives so she can have a job, and then eventually, like I said, um, I was we moved to West Philadelphia around 52nd and King Sesson, and that's where I went to school, went to BB Comedies, and had a pretty normal life outside of those humps and bumps earlier in my life. But then, like I said, when my mom was able to get a job, she's a single parent. I didn't even know what poor was. So if I was broke, if we were broke or we were poor, I didn't feel it because my mother was made. She made sure that I had everything that I need. So it was a good life. It was a good life. I was able to
That's
go to Catholic school also. I was able to, after I left public school, the Philadelphia public school, I went to the Catholic school from, I guess, grade 6 through 12th and had an awesome education. Went to St. Francis de Sales, which is in West Philadelphia, and went to West Catholic for boys at the time. Now it's just West Catholic. So I had a good life, good upbringing.
wow. I learned something new, y'all. I don't know he was from Los Angeles and he had to come over there. That's so cool. So, going into the education realm, how did you get into that in high school? Because I know, so for those who don't know, I am a rising senior, so I will be a senior this year, and I'm in the process of like doing all this stuff. So like I think for me, what is just to the listeners that's also like rising seniors, or not just even just seniors in general, but just anybody that want to pursue, I guess, their career of choice or dream. Like, how did you choose from like high school and like kind of get into like a little bit of that?
Well, when I was in high school, my goal was to become an accountant.
Okay.
So when I went to school, when I went to college, I started at Temple University. One of the things I think that your listeners, especially young people, should realize is that a lot of times when we're in school, we may not do as well as we think, and we get discouraged because we feel as though that we are a failure, or because we're not at where what we call the normal um, thing in education. I was at Temple University. I was discouraged because, when I started, I had to get into a track for math. We had to get in a track for reading because, um, for some reason, I did not get all of those things when I was in high school. So I had to kind of bump it up. So therefore, those credits, unfortunately, those classes that I took did not count towards my degree. Uh, I've had a college professor that told me that I would not graduate ever from college because I did not have what it takes. So when you have that, you kind of get discouraged. So I decided to leave Temple. I dropped out and I didn't do anything. I started just wanted to work. So I was working, but I, of course, wanted something different. So I went to ninth school where I was at. I went to Eastern um, University, which at the time was is Eastern College. I went there at night and took some classes just to try to get myself together, decide what I wanted to do. While I was in the workforce, um, I was working in payroll. I didn't want to do that. I didn't like it. It wasn't self fulfilling, and that's the thing. You have to want something that's self fulfilling at the time, and so my thing was to figure out what it is that I liked doing. So I made a list of those things I like, those things I dislike, which was the job I was doing. So I decided that it was time to go, and I went to um, my advisor at the college, and like I said, I was doing night school, and I asked them. I said, "Well, I want to become a teacher. What must I do?" And the first thing they told me, "You're going to have to come during the day because a lot of the courses are not offered at night. So, in order for me to do that, what do you have to do? You have to quit." And that's what happened. So, I had to quit my job and I became a full time student. I delivered newspapers. I was able to help with an after school program in the suburbs. Did those things to try to have extra money to pay my car note and do other things. I was still at home, so it was okay. Um, and I went and I did it. I finished my bachelor's program, and I believe it was 2.5 years instead of taking the 4 years. Although I had some credits, I did it in 2.5 years because what I did, I went to Eastern College slash university, and then I went to Philadelphia Community College to take some courses, and I also went to Delaware Community College taking courses. So I was going to three colleges at one time
Oh
to
wow.
get my credits, um, and I was able to excel in those things. And then, like I said, in 2.5 years, I was able to get my degree in education. In education, I didn't graduate. They sent it in the mail because I had missed the deadline for graduation. So my degree has September 1st
Okay.
on it because, like I said, I didn't graduate, but I had finished all the courses, and by the time all of the credits came in from um, the community colleges, Delaware and Philadelphia Community College, it was late for me to graduate. But I got the degree, and I was able to secure a job at the end of that month, which is September, in Philadelphia School District of Philadelphia.
Wow. That that is amazing to hear your story. I want to piggyback on something that you just mentioned. So, how did it feel to just, I guess take three go to three colleges at the same time? Because that sounds like a lot. Just for me being in school, that is a lot. How did you manage all that?
It was. I to do it now. I probably couldn't do it, but it was a lot. But I had determination. I had to get out. I could not drag out school long enough because what happened when I went to Temple, I wasted a lot of time. I wasted, and
Oh, okay.
I felt as though I wasted like 2 years of my life um, trying to fulfill those obligations. Like I said, I was in those courses, and then to have one of my teachers or professors to tell me that you're just not college material. It's a blow. When I went to Eastern College, though, like I said, they were so welcoming and encouraging. And anytime you have a deficiency in yourself, and somebody will help you with that, you want to do your best. So I knew I didn't have a lot of time. I needed a job. I wanted a full
Hmm.
time job. I did not want to depend on my mom. I did not want to continue doing, because I was also working two jobs.
Okay.
So it was, going to three colleges and working two part time jobs, making sure that I can pay my car note. Because unfortunately, when I was working full time, I purchased a car that was pretty expensive with the
Hmm.
car note. And so, but I didn't want to lose it, so I had to work and pay for that. And so that's
Yeah.
why I did. I delivered papers in the morning, and in the afternoon, after I finished classes, I went to an after school program where I worked with the children from, I guess, about 3 to 6 every day.
That is, I'm telling you, like for real, to see how much you hustled, or like I guess that's a slang, right? But
Yeah.
to see how much hard work you put into your education, and how you didn't let your setbacks get to you.
Hmm.
And I just want to talk about that. Kind of like a lot of times, you can see a person and look at them, you're like, oh wow, they're very successful. But like, what is some? I think you mentioned about taking three colleges. You didn't do well in some in like the tempo and stuff like that. But what are some other things that you really didn't do well in, and how can you encourage the listeners to like really put their step forward into being okay with learning from your mistakes? I feel like a lot of times we put so much pressure on ourselves. And like, we have to do this right, we have to do that right, and it's like, you want to do right, you have to, you want to learn from your mistakes. But I feel like at the same time we shouldn't put pressure on ourselves. If we have, I guess like a guidance, or like way to, I guess, people.
Well,
Hmm.
also, you look at, I had people in my life that
Hmm.
was that were very encouraging. For instance, I had um, during that time when I was in college at Temple University, had the opportunity um, to join a church which was Holy Temple Church of God in Christ, where Bishop Jones Jr. was the pastor. Well, he was very encouraging, and I spent a lot of time with him, um, and letting him know my plans, my dreams, and so he encouraged me to do my best. And in order to do your best, also you have to make it up in your mind that that's what you want to do. If you have a dream, you got to try to fulfill it, and it's hard work. It's all hardness, and a lot at times it gets discouraging, but at times also you do see a light, and so it's when you get that light, you go to it, you go towards it.
Hmm.
And it was discouraging with school, but like I said, when it took me, I believe, I'm not sure, from the time I finished high school to get my degree, it was something like 8 or 10 years. So it was like a long time. But when I got it, I knew I could do it. And when I went, so that it helped me. And then when I secured my job, I had my supervisor, who was the principal, to tell me to go back to school and get a master's degree. And I didn't waste any time. So I had I think I took a whole year from school. I went back to school, did night school, because at the time, well, even now you can get your master's degree at night. So it was not a problem. So after work, I went back to school and got my master's degree, uh, so that I could become an administrator. Um, and in 4 year time, I got that, which is the right amount of time. I got my master's degree, so it was just nonstop, because you have to decide what you want to do, in life. Like I said, even though you're going to get the humps, you're going to get the bumps. You got to continue to strive, and you're going to get tired. You're going to be disappointed and all of that. But if you have people, just a few people, my mom, of course, like I said, my pastor at the time, and then even when I met at that time, it was my friend, but now she's my wife. When I met my wife and we were just talking, she was very encouraging in doing me. Oh, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And so when you have somebody like that, and when you have people that's working with you, you can do it.
That that's that. I'm so glad. I know that for me. I know I have a lot of people in my life personally, including you. You know, I love to talk to you because you have such um you have such. I was gonna say I guess what's the word I'm trying to say? Enthusiasm. I was gonna say charismatic. I was gonna say that word.
That's good.
I'm trying to say big words. Amen.
No, that's all
but
good.
but I just wanted to know, since you talked about that, you know, I did mention at the beginning about a doctor, y'all. I'm sorry, I should have said doctor of education,
That's
not
all right.
an actual doctor. Like, you know, he don't do surgeries, y'all. What was the
No.
experience like, and of getting your doctorate degree and becoming you know, an educator? And also a quick note, y'all. He actually used to work at one of my elementary schools I used to go to, and
Yep.
I did not find out this until one of my teachers had told me, and she was like, a godpop, you know, he's my godpop. Do you know John Reese? And I was like, yeah, he's my godpop. So it was hilarious. So, like, just explain about that.
Well, okay, getting in school when I started school,
Mm-hmm,
I won't even tell the year, but when I started in teaching,
mm-hmm,
it was phenomenal. Um, it was hard, very
mm-hmm.
difficult. Anyone that's getting an education is a task, but again, I was determined because I had spent all those years getting
Mm-hmm.
my bachelor's degree in education, so I had to make
Okay.
this thing work. It was tough, but you get a knack for it. So you become, uh, I guess you as every day went, the students taught me as I was teaching them. Um, 30 over 30 some years ago, it was a little different in education because we had more of a focus in the curriculum. Not saying it's not there now, but it was a little bit more focused, a little bit more, but it was also broad in the sense that you can put a lot of other things in there to help students learn. Um, where now it's a little different, everything is kind of really focused and spearheaded towards testing. Um, but as a teacher, I enjoy the students. I took them personally and as family because I would want the best for my child, my family members, and that's how I felt with the students that I taught. I wanted to make sure that they got the best, and then I also look for those students that had a lot um, of potential, but did not see it within themselves to try to boost them up so that they can become the best, of the best. I started out at one school, which was in West Philadelphia, not too far from where I lived, um, on 52nd Street. I was a school on 58th Street, and that's the school I started, and then I transferred to the school that you went to,
Mm-hmm,
and I worked there
mm-hmm,
for years
mm-hmm,
until I became an administrator,
mm-hmm,
and then I had to go from other schools.
mm-hmm.
Um, but it was a joy. It was a joy being a teacher. It's hard. It's difficult. And today is a little really it's really difficult because you're dealing with a lot of personalities and you're dealing with a lot of things that you know s- students go through a lot, and a lot of times we don't see it. And so they have a lot of things that they go through at home, a lot of things they're going through within themselves, a lot of things that they're going through even at school, and we may not see it. And a lot of times they are quiet about it. And so when you deal with that, and if you're concerned about that, and if you're concerned about the person, it's wear and tear on you, because you also want to not just be that educator. We also want to be a person that they can reach out, a resource to them, so that they can um, have somebody that they can talk to. And a lot of times, people don't do that. And when you don't do that, you miss out. That that student will not get anything, because they can't hear you. If I'm hungry, I can't hear you. If I'm going through with some type of abuse, I can't hear you. So you got to try to reach the whole person. And so that was one of the goals that I wanted to do in education. And I was, grateful to be a teacher for, I think, 18, 18 or 19 years. I was an elementary school teacher before I became an administrator.
Wow, that I know. Yeah, actually, very recently he just he was a principal, and he's been work. And how long had well, if you want to
Well,
say the
it was like 14, 15 years, whatever it
okay,
totaled up to 33.
okay,
It was a good number. It was being an administrator. I was an assistant principal. Being an
okay,
administrator was good. It was different in the sense that everything, a lot of times things change. You were placed at schools that needed help. You were placed at schools that had a vacancy. Unfortunately, as an administrator, as an assistant principal, one year we experienced a layoff, which was devastating to all of us. Um, it was devastating to the schools. It was devastating, of course, to the assistant principals who did not have a job. And so, for 3 times in a row, consecutively, I was laid off, which means there was no income. So it kind of put a bitter taste in my mouth as well, because you know I know it was the budget, but it should have been something that we could have fall back on, and they
mhm,
didn't allow it. So, but I had an opportunity in that experience to be an administrator in several schools, middle schools, K-8 schools, and it was just an outstanding opportunity. There were schools that were very, 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 very difficult, uh, and then there were schools that I loved and just adored, in a sense that it was not as difficult, where you can develop relationships with the staff as well as with the students. One of the schools, Beige Martin, I was an assistant principal 1 year there, and the principal that was there encouraged me. Actually, was having a conversation. She and I were talking about uh, education, and she encouraged me to go back and get my doctorate degree, because she was telling me that she had to just do her dissertation. And so we were talking and talking and talking, and I said, "Well, where can I go?" And she told me, "Oh, go to St. Joseph University. You have a good program." And I applied and was accepted, and that's where we started. Unfortunately, again, that after that period, I was laid off, but I had an opportunity to
mm,
concentrate on the studies. Um, St. Joe's, the doctoral program is I think it was a 4 year program, um, and again, it took a lot, and it was every single semester, so we didn't have a break, and you have cohorts, which means that you had to go with the program. So if for some reason you have to drop out, you had to kind of not start over again, but you had to wait to the next cohort to begin that class. So we stuck together. Um, we started out. It was really funny. We started out with 30 some people, and by the time our 4 years were up, I think we had 12.
oh wow,
So yeah, so people drop out for many reasons, um, but it was an awesome experience. Actually, the best, and in my opinion, easy degree I received because it was just so it was real life experience, and they try to teach the whole person, um, and that was unique, the ethics of it. And so I went back. I had no intentions of getting a doctorate degree, but that principal encouraged me to do so. And St. Joe's, like Eastern University, was so welcoming and so encouraging. And the cohort that we were involved in, everyone was very supportive, you know. And like I said, you know, it. We just went through it and we did it, and we did it. And so that's where we are. That's why I got the doctorate degree, the doctorate
That
degree.
that's amazing. So that means you had somebody. So that means that after you that means that after you were laid off, you had somebody talk to you to let you know that you was able to take this program and St. Joe's to then become a doctorate in education. I
Mhm.
that's good. That is so good. Now I want to go back a little bit to your personal life. So like you
Mhm.
was talking about you being friends with your boo with the love of your life, and like my
Yeah, yeah.
question is like how did that come about?
Very easy. It's a good
Okay.
story, very good story. On City Line Avenue, uh, still there's Fridays there on City Line
Okay.
Avenue, but behind Fridays, on there used to be a hotel called the Adams Mark Hotel,
Okay.
and so I don't know if you know your family have told you the experience, but they were there. Um, the Adams Mark Hotel, we had our convocation there. We don't
Oh
have it there now. We
wow.
have it, you
Okay.
know, in Valley Forge, but we used to have
Mhm.
our convocation, Holy Convocation, uh, there at on the City Island Avenue because you had the hotel, you had two hotels, and then you had so Adams Mark was a very big hotel. Anyway, um, I went to the after I joined Holy Temple. My wife also was a member, pretty much born and raised in Holy Temple,
Wow.
but we went we went to, we went to the Holy Convocation, or I went to the convocation, um, and I went out with some of the young people, and she was there. We went out together, and we were talking because, of course, we were members of
Friends.
the same
Yeah.
church,
Mhm.
and we shared. We went with everybody, and we shared an what they call the deep dish apple pie. It was very thick apple pie, so we shared that, and that's where it all started.
Wow.
And we were been close ever since then, very close until we decided to get married.
Wow.
Um, and we was it was been a long time because we were um, dating, I guess you want to call it dating or
Mhm.
seeing each other for almost 10 years before we decided to get married.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That
it was a long
wow.
time on
Yes.
my
On your part.
part. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about it was because I think it was amazing because you did mention how you started at college, and I thought you was talking about like you were friends at the time during that college.
Well,
Um.
what happened?
Okay.
Um, Going back, remember I was at a member of Holy Temple
Oh
in
yes, you was.
the early 80s. I became a
Okay.
member, so I in fact it had to be 82, 83.
Okay.
Well, might have been 83
Okay.
I when I graduated from high school. I went to Temple,
Okay.
and I started going to Holy Temple. So I met my future wife at Holy Temple because she was a
Oh,
member
okay.
there.
Okay.
But like I said, we became friends through things with the convocation and church.
Okay.
Uh, but and because we were friends,
Mhm.
we also I had a job in Fort Washington,
Okay.
and she was looking for a job. So I told her, I said, "There's a job opening there," and she applied. And she got it, and so we would go. We would drive to work together because we had to go way to Fort Washington. So I would either pick her up, and then we would go to work. And so that's how it developed. So in the meantime, while I was working in Fort Washington, um, we I was not in school. I didn't finish school. I went
Okay.
back to school, because that's
Okay.
the job that I quit to go
Oh
back to
yes.
school. So she was encouraging to say, "Well, yeah, do what you got to do," you know.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
so
Okay,
that's
I get it
how,
now.
yeah. So that's how it
Okay, I
all.
get it.
Because basically, we grew up, although we were already grown somewhat. We
Yeah.
still grew up in the church together before, and then we worked together before we got married and before we, talked about anything serious.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's amazing. I just love hearing those stories because I feel like every love story is very different. So
Mhm. Mhm.
like this one was with church, and talking about church, I think I tell a lot of people because I tell my listeners that I'm very not faith, oh my goodness, based with what I talk about, and I love talking about Jesus, and I love talking about the Lord. So for me, y'all, we Kojic over
Right.
here.
That's
And
right.
the thing about it is, so like kind of like going, we could talk about Kojic, and then we kind of go back to education. But I just wanted to kind of like, how did that pastoring come about? And, like how did all of that come about?
Ah, well, that's a good story. Um, I'm trying to abbreviate it, but it's a good story. I mean, I
Okay.
was in the church uh, all of my life, even
Okay.
before I became Kojic.
Hmm.
I only had the Kojic experience when I joined Holy Temple.
Okay.
Before then, remember I told you I went to Catholic school, so I
Okay.
was Catholic,
Oh
and
wow.
so
Okay.
when I was in when I was in sixth grade, my mother and I became Catholic. So we got baptized, and I was what they call confirmation, all of that. And when I was in high school, I was I was going to become a priest. Uh,
Wow.
so that was the thing. So I visited a school, a college or seminary, I should say,
Okay.
where I was interested in becoming a priest, but things just did not work out. Don't know why it didn't work out. It just didn't. I didn't pursue it.
Mm.
So I stayed, and then I also like boxing. So I was
Okay.
doing that on the side, amateur boxing. So when I graduated from high school, and I went to because I was you know, I also have a background in Baptist because when I came here from California, one of the people that we stayed with, they were Baptists, and they took me to church every Sunday.
Okay.
It wasn't an issue, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that was forced on me. It's something that I was told to do. It was just that I enjoyed it, so I would go to
Hmm.
church with them every Sunday, and just like we're familiar with it. We went to morning worship and we went to afternoon worship. And I got up and I was ready to go to school. So I always had the church experience in my life since I can remember. Um, but Kojic came in, like I said, when I was finished high school. Um, and I enjoyed the service. I enjoyed the experience. It was an opening experience. It wasn't dry as you were talking about. It was charismatic. It was alive. It was vibrant. The hearing a pastor preach like Bishop Jones was preaching was unique. I've never heard that in my life, and so I was drawn to that. And so I went many, 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 many Sundays before I joined, and then I joined um, and I start again remembering I wanted to always be in a ministry because that was the reason why I wanted to be a priest. I wanted to be in a ministry. So I was talking to Bishop Jones about that, and so my experience with that is that he had he was always in the church office or when he was in town, but every Friday after school, because again I was in college, but every Friday, um, even if I was working, I went. He told me to come by the church. So, and I would try to even push my classes where I didn't have Friday classes, so I could spend the time with him. And so, when he was in the city every Friday, I would be at the church, talking with him and putting together at that time. We used to put it together the bulletins because your church bulletins for the Sunday. We would put those together, fold them up, and all that. So I would sit down
Oh
there.
wow.
I would ride with him to different places that he had to go to, and he loved making his own lunch, and I would be there, there. So just to get just the information that he had so much.
Wisdom.
I told him that I was interested in the ministry.
Hmm.
He told me to continue to pray about it. Asked me what was I doing. Again to come, and then when I came, there was a certain poor time that I had to read the Bible to him. I had to read the Bible. There was a time when uh, I had to read a text and go come back to him the next week, and I had to talk about that text. There was an instance rather, where um, he told me, "I want you to prepare for your trial sermon." And so I did. I wrote things out. I did my research. He took me over to the church building and told me to stand up on the pulpit, and then he told me to preach it. So I didn't have notes then. So I'm like, "Oh my goodness, you want to? Yeah, preach it."
So you was
Um,
nervous? You was nervous?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're talking about the bishop, and I don't, so it was like, oh my goodness, and so that's what I had to do. And he critiqued it, you know, be careful on, which how you pronounce your words. Be careful on um, using how many
A
times
lot.
he counted that.
Oh my goodness.
Uh,
I said a lot.
so
I'm like,
and you had to start all over again. You had to start
oh
over. So
my
there was
goodness.
no mercy. But it was good, and I to
Mhm.
this day I remember it. I cherish it, and even when got ordained, after I got ordained, I still did a lot going back, to talk with him. So as the years went on, I was, I've been a minister since 19, I believe 1988. So it's a long, long time.
A long time.
And I was ordained in 1988. Um, as the time went on, and once he passed, I was looking for or the opportunity to pastor. Never thought I'd be leaving. I would leave Holy Temple because that was just my home church, and I got comfortable there. But as anything, even in the workforce, um, you sometimes you just have to leave. So I left Holy Temple, and I went to help Mother Ann Miller with her ministry for a while, and from there I went to help what we call Rabbi, your superintendent,
Hmm.
Elder Connors, Superintendent Connors, helped him for a while, and I was talking to him, and I said I wanted to pastor. Well, he said that at the time there's no churches available. Well, as you get older, and when people understand, when you get older, after a while you get settled in mind that this is not going to happen. So what's next? Which
Hmm.
means, what do I need to do to make sure that I fulfill what God's plans are? And so I
Hmm.
got settled in the sense that I will be working with people or working at a church and live my life.
Hmm. Yeah.
What happened was during a convocation, one of our convocations, I spoke with a pastor who was thinking about retiring, and he said that he wanted me to pastor his church.
Wow.
That's what I said, and because now I didn't even I'm not even in the mindset to pastor. He says
It just happened.
it
It
just
just
happened,
happened. Wow.
and so God will open doors for you, even when you don't even see the door. Um, Pastoring, as you know, because your dad, it's hard. It's a hard task because now you're thinking about so many things. It's not just spiritual things, not feeding just the God's people,
Hmm.
the sheep. It's also business wise. It's a business, And a lot of times people don't look at it that way, and
That's
but
true.
it's a business because you have to make sure that everything is working, everything is operable. You got to make sure that the your facilities, and that can be a wear and tear on your mind every night, and a wear and tear on your finances. Um, as you know, many of our churches are small now, and so you don't have the membership that many churches had.
Before
I would say
COVID, prior to COVID.
prior to COVID, and
Hmm.
even in the 80s and 90s, because in the 80s and 90s, that's all many of us knew was church,
Yeah, that's true.
and so we didn't
Revivals.
have we yeah
Hmm.
we didn't have all of this technology where we can look at our phones
Live
and
stream,
right
Facebook, Instagram.
right. So we were in church,
Yeah,
and so you had a decent, what I call a decent congregation, and people supporting the ministry. But now it's totally a total different world.
virtual.
So what happens with that when you're doing stuff? A lot of the times, like even right now, a lot of the funds, it comes from the pastor's pocket. And so we're doing a major project right now, and it kills me because it's a lot of work. So it's good because it was something that I wanted to do for years, but also, and this is gonna knock your shoes off, just like a secular job, there are also times when you are done.
Mm.
So you have to figure out in your ministry, and whether it's pastoring or whatever it is, you got to figure out when the time says your time is up and you need to move on.
Mm.
And people have not, people, especially our Church of God in Christ, people, we get a position and we die in it. And that's not the way to do, because um, there are other people out there that can fulfill those positions and do well. You don't get into a situation. You don't have to be old for this to happen, but you don't get in a situation where you're stagnated. Because if you are, you're not going anywhere. Then what's the use? And that's what happens, and that's what happens to a lot of our churches. So when we get these churches, or when a pastor become a pastor of a church, um, you find it's less people because the previous pastor you know, may have stayed in the ministry too long, and those people went on and did other things, they lost interest. And so now, we all begin to start, although the church has been in existence for years, it's like starting all over again.
Mm.
So you have to know when your time is, and that's with any position. A lot of people may not agree with that, but it is
Hmm.
it's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah,
Just like I retired from the school, from education as a teacher from the school, you have to
principal
retire
too.
from certain things. It's not saying you leaving the church. It's not saying that you're leaving God. It's just saying that you got to do something different, and you can be also just a support. You can be a support to the next person that has the position. But you have, and it's a lot of work. And if you do it seriously, it's a lot of work where you don't want to do it until you die, if you can live longer. But it's a lot of work.
Yeah. And I was actually I just stopped because I just said, "Whoa, that was some good information." I love that. I feel like stopping. I feel like you had some good points when it comes to stopping because I believe that sometimes I think in my life I'm always on the go. I'm always saying. Sometimes I'm always mostly saying yes to certain people and certain things, and sometimes I'm just like I can't do it. And it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that I'm such a busy person. Like people when people say busy, people like for real people be saying busy and be in bed. But I'm just saying, but there's a difference between like being busy and like how can I say like if you want to be busy, like you have stuff to do, but then you sometimes you have to be a support. You can't like I said, you can't always be here, can't always be there. You can only support what you can support. And I feel like saying no to some things is okay. Like don't some people are going to take it personally, other people aren't. So you just have to be confident in what you're saying and what you want.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, because that's one of the problems with the church, is that we do a lot. You can't make everything. and you have to sit because if you try to do that, all you're doing is hurting yourself. You're hurting your body. And then another thing, um, I'm thinking when you were saying you say, no to some things because you can't do it, and a lot of times, um, older uh, people look at that. And what I mean by older than you, they look at in a form of, well, you're too young to be that busy, and that's crazy. That's crazy because you're just because I'm young doesn't mean I'm not busy. May not be busy in your eyes, but I'm busy because I'm doing a lot of stuff. And that's one of the things that we unfortunately we grow up and people still do it today. They always say, "Oh, you too young for that. You too young." Stop. Stop saying that because just because it took you this long to get where I am doesn't mean that I'm not, valuable. It doesn't mean that I'm not busy. And you just have to put a stop to it. And I see it in the life of a lot of young people that they don't understand that people are just busy. And if I'm busy, and then sometimes I just don't want to do it. Something yeah, that's another thing. I just don't want to do it. And so my thing is in the ministry is to know um where the Lord wants me to be and when He wants me to stop that part and move on to the next part. Just like I did when I left, when I left my job. So it's another part, you know, I'm not dead. So therefore, I can do something. I just have to figure out what it is next for me. And that's how it has to be in a ministry and not just as a pastor, but any position that you hold. Um, you have to, some people that play an instrument, they might start playing an instrument for a while and then they get to a point where they don't want to do that anymore and they go to the next level, and then people always try to push you back into what you were because of what they want. It's not because of you, it's what because their own selfish. Well, I need a musician. Well, I don't want to do that anymore. you know and we have to check them on that. It's a different world out here. It really is.
So funny you mentioned that because when you said that, I just automatically said yes. I kept saying yes because I agree with you on that one. Especially like me being young and only being, I guess I could say my age, 17 and going on to 18. Like I'm starting to become a young man. I'm starting to become an adult. So it's like I think that a lot of times now as me getting older, I'm starting to see different things that I haven't seen when I was younger. When I was younger, my parents they still have guidance on me right now, but like they kind of like had me like be like a little bit to myself as well. But when I was younger, I really didn't have that leeway. But now I'm starting to see how like just like not even just my parents, but like certain people that's not even my parents. Because my parents, I love my parents and I love you and I love God my Reese and I love everybody that I have in my life because they are always encouraging. But there are just certain things and certain people that say, I think you should do this and I think you should do that. And it's the fact that it's like I don't see myself where you see me. Just because I don't feel led to do that. You may see me as, being the next pastor. I don't think not now me personally, I don't see myself in that. Now if God tells me to do that, then that may be a different story. But it's the fact of understanding that, not everything has to go what other people think. Like it's okay to be yourself. And I think I mentioned that in my first episode, like being yourself and like not letting people dictate what you do and especially with like sterilizing. I was gonna say stereotypical. I think like people say a stereotypical way of doing things is their way. So what they think is for you, but if you do it and you show them, oh, I can do more than what you say I can do, then it will be a whole different story. And I think that is great. And do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I agree with you. It's just I don't know the audience or who's going to be listening to this, but it goes for anyone, a younger, middle age. The point is this: is that you have to do what you want to do. You can't allow people to push you into certain things. And they do. They say, I even when I was going, oh, you look like a minister. You look like what does a minister look like? You know, um, you look like this, you look like that. What does that look like? You know, so you really have to do what you want to do to fulfill your dreams and your desires, you know, and be led by God because you want to be within His will, and trust you me, He will show you. If we just sometimes when you're not even, I had no intentions of pastoring a church. I had no intent because in my mind that that time had already passed, but our time is not God's time.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to remind you to please do not forget to turn on your notifications. I thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Spotify, and podcast episodes will be releasing on every Thursday. Like I said, again, thank you so much for listening. And now we're going to resume the episode. Okay, and so when I think about the education system, what is the difference? What is the difference between working in the education system back then to as of now? And I guess in 2020 to like the 90s or like 2000s or yeah. Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I can't go in. I can only go into my experience. Um, I don't know who's going to listen to this. I'm going to just tell you how some things how I feel, not everything, because it might not be good for me. But um, like I said earlier, education when I became a teacher, it was a little bit more open in the sense that we had more leeway. Teachers had more, excuse me, leeway in educating our students. There were times when um, we can take students on trips so they can learn certain things, which was awesome. So it's not always learning inside the classroom. We learn outside the classroom. That's the biggest educator because a lot of times students have to see things, they have to experience it to really get the grasp of what's happening. And so, as I went through education, as well as I had worked through education, I noticed the change happening where it wasn't so many trips because we had to deal with testing. You know, you had to make sure that everybody was, proficient or better, above. Um, and if you were below, that was a thing. So it became more of a task. Education becomes more of a task. Education um, is not like it used to be. It's sometimes I wonder, are our students really learning? Because if you're teaching for the test, that means that they get it and it goes right out of their head. They get it for the test and it goes right out of their head, and it becomes time consuming. It becomes stressful. It's not fun, and depending on the individual student, you can lose them totally. As for me, as an educator, I felt as though, and I told you about earlier being laid off 3 times. It's politics. It's politics. Um, it's who you know. It's not, it's not as an educator, not student now, but as an educator going forth. It's about it's political. It's who you know where you people get certain jobs is not what you know. Is who you know, and it's personality conflicts. Um, so a lot of times people um, like myself is stagnated in a job because if you're not in the who's who, you don't get the job. It's not, and even though you apply for it, it's all about um, people who you know or friends or whatever else. And like I said, it's just political. And I won't go any further than that because, like I said, some things. Uh, but I've heard from reliable sources reasons why I didn't get promoted for certain things because, um, you've been blackballed, and sometimes you are blackballed. And so those are the things that, and it's not like it used to be. It's not like it used. And then the educational system, I think every um, And I think every student learns differently, and we know that. And so there are students that everybody's not going to college. Um, Everybody is not going to get a degree, and it shouldn't be like that. So we have to make sure that we have programs and things out there for our students. If I want to be, if I want to do other things, I want to be a plumber, if I want to be a electronic engineer or whatever. There, and some of those things are college related, but a lot of the stuff isn't. I'm talking about mechanic. I need to know how. I need to know my craft. I need to know that. So you have to figure out what you want to do, and it should be available for students so that they can take those things. I might just want to be a cook. I we need to have all types of programs for our students to learn so that they can excel. But to tell me that I have to just do this one thing and this is the only way I do it, it's wrong. It's wrong, and it's causing a lot of our students to leave education before they even get their diploma because they get frustrated. You know, um, and like I said, the system is not what it's cracked up to be. Now, don't know if it's good or bad, as far as from when I got in it or when I was in school to now. But I know because I'm seeing some of those things, I just know that it's not working. It's not working, and we're losing a lot of our students now. Some students, thank God, if I know in the city of Philadelphia that more students are graduating now than ever before, which is a great thing. Um, but there have been times when it wasn't, and then there are still times right now where people are not finishing because something happened. And it's not just education; it goes a lot with your psychological. Yeah, a lot of things that's going on in life, that we may not even want to discuss on this podcast, but Um, you got family issues, you have personal issues, that you have identity issues, and when those things are not addressed, and when those things people seem to put a back seat on, we close. Young people will close it out, and they say, I don't even want to talk about it,
Hmm.
and then they don't finish, and then
Hmm.
again, like you said, we both said it, we have to have somebody to push us, somebody that we can call,
Yes.
talk to, somebody to say, "Oh, you can do this." If I
Hmm.
don't have that, then now what?
Hmm.
So I think the education and going further into it, I received my doctorate degree because it was something that I wanted to do. It didn't
Hmm.
give me any more money. It didn't give me a better position. Um, I, people call me doctor, in education,
Doctor.
but
Doctor.
but other than that, it didn't give me. It was something that I wanted to do, was self preservation.
Okay.
Um, so when you look at it that way, you got to look at. But there are consequences. So the
Hmm.
consequences of that is this: now you got a big bill, so
Right.
you got to pay a big right. And so when you look at it now, it didn't help. I didn't become pastor because I have a doctorate degree.
Hmm.
So it didn't help me any. It was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to sharpen my skills, and with that came the title, came the degree.
Hmm.
Um, but you know, when you look at it, and I hate to sound like this, but I will say it. Why? So it's like when you go to school, make sure there's a reason. Make
Hmm.
sure that there's a destination for you. Do you really have to go to school to do what you really want to do? Because the consequences is this: you may incur a bill. Now, if you go to school and your tuition is going to be free, and you got a scholarship, blah blah blah, that's awesome,
That's amazing. That's
and do it
amazing.
right.
Do it.
But to go just because somebody told you to do it, or because somebody else is doing it, it doesn't make any sense,
It does.
because you're going to have this bill that you got to pay for years. And I know several people, several students that I even taught that have degrees and they're home doing nothing or working at jobs that they don't have a degree. They didn't get a degree. They're receiving that. So
Wow. That means that I'm learning because I know for me, I like I said I'm a wrestling senior and I think I mentioned that before, but when people ask me, Sean, what you want to do? I'm like, so the reason like so I normally would say like business, also mention media communication because that's something I enjoy. I enjoy social media. I love doing podcasts. Like that's a form of media. Then you have like video, production. You also got the business world. Like I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later in a future episode, but I have experienced a little bit of what it's like to be in a company in a business, and I felt so like wow, like this is amazing. I know every company is different and it has their own different challenges and good things and bad things, but I was just glad to just experience, people that worked in these fields. And I was shocked. I was like, this place look all bougie and and I was just so like, and it was just amazing. It wasn't because of the luxurious part of it, but it was amazing to me that these people work so hard to get to where they are. And I know that I think a lot of people think that you have to. I mean, it's good to work hard, but sometimes it's good to have your connections because you never know where your connections can go.
and you're right, and that's what I was saying earlier. Is who you know. The problem is it's you know what about the individual that hasn't gotten out there? So um, one of the things is networking that I was always told is very good. You do have to do the networking, and sometimes you have to come out your comfort zone in order to do that. Um, and that helps, But you know, I've heard about those organizations or businesses that cater to their employees because they want you to be there. They want you to be comfortable, and they want you to almost feel at home so you don't mind staying extra hours, not even knowing you staying extra hours because you can go walk to the cafe and pick up a Danish without worrying about anything and or some coffee, and it's free, because that's the home style that they do it. So they invest in their workers, they invest in their employees, and that's what you have to do. And if you want to, get somewhere, I mean, think about it. Even going back in any field or an organization, you have to figure out what it is that's going to meet your clientele or the clientele you're trying to receive. That's what we do even in our churches. That's why we have Facebook, because we know that we got to reach a clientele that is not going to come to the building, you know, um, and we got to do what we got to do.
But since you talked about that, something just randomly popped up in my head to ask you this question. So, what was I think since you talked about you being a principal and he is retired. He has been working for 30 plus years in the 33 years in education. So I know we have different life experiences and different things that happen in the world. I think for me, COVID was one of the. I'm 2006 baby. I think I'm yeah. I just gave up my age. I'm 2006 baby, so I didn't. I wasn't really known to like. I know that there was like pandemics in the past, but this one was very, 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 very different for me. So for you, what was that like area like for I guess you in ministry and education, what was the hardship between like 2019, 2020, and like past that point?
Yeah, that was interesting. I be honest with you, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if we were going to come out of this thing or not,
Same.
because I never experienced it. But I've also heard people say, "Oh, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through it because we've gotten through other things." Okay, so and we did
We
get
did.
through it,
I'm glad.
although
I'm grateful.
there's some viruses that's still out there.
Yes.
It changed. That's what I mean. We're doing this.
Hmm.
It changed a whole lot of stuff where people, I think, it helped in many aspects because people became aware of technology,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit aware. If it's nothing but just clicking a button to turn on, you know, people that would not have done it.
Yes,
You know,
true.
you have people that are using Cash App and Giveify.
Mm-hmm.
They never did that before, because this is another a form of it. So I think it helped educate the entire world. I think it's good also in a lot of aspects for um, almost for anything. But the two things that I'm thinking about in education is really good because, um, unfortunately, we may not want to admit it, but there are students that can learn better at home.
That's true.
Um, there are students that have a lot of different issues, whatever they may be, but they can learn better from home on the screen. Um, that is available now, so that would help. There are people that can't go to church because of some type of physical thing or because of some type of sickness, but they can turn on their this phone or computer and watch a service. Actually, several services, any service they
Right?
want.
Put on the playlist.
Yeah, and so those things is out there now. It hurt the local work
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking for people to be inside, but by the same token, is a good thing for people that have been confined and can't do,
Mm-hmm.
um, or needs another avenue. For instance, we didn't have to get together and be in a room together to do this.
Yes,
So it's so important. I think the technology. COVID was
it
scary,
was.
because a lot of times, many of us we know people
Mm-hmm.
and that that didn't make it
Mm-hmm.
because of COVID. And so it was just one more thing that caused us to think and to check, say, oh my God, what is going on? Yeah. So, but but with school, it was great. And again, even some schools haven't, because I mean, I just retired. I know last year there were a lot of students that didn't come back. They were still trying to do virtual experience, and because they didn't want to go back, your parents didn't want them to come back. So it has a lot now, and with education because of it too. Um, on the flip side of that, a lot of students, it was a disadvantage because they lost
That
a
social
lot.
interaction between.
They lost a lot. Their social skills, not being able to actually visualize it, not being able to get that support, that help from that teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So they lost a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happens even like when people watch online our search services. You can see what's going on, but you can't experience it
Like
if you're
it
not
was in
there.
person. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely get that because you know what? When I actually look at a lot of so for those who don't know, I love the Clark sisters, right? And they're one of my favorite groups. I love Karen and Dorinda and Jackie and Twinkie. They're all my favorites, and Kiera shared that's my girl too. And when I watch the older videos, like I play their older songs, or like not even just them, but anybody older songs, I feel the nostalgia from that era, and you can tell how different it was. I think I mentioned that to like a lot of people, and like how the music at the time was different, or like August, like the video at the time was very different. Like everything was so, what you call it? I guess it was very like, I guess it was normal in a sense. And I think that everything, since everything changed, we have virtual. So, and it's so funny because what's so funny, because right before COVID happened, um, we was doing like church services online. And, I would just like talk and like kind of see like what was going on and stuff. But I wanted to
Mhm.
do live stream. Coming to find out, a couple months later, COVID would have happened. So I would have never known about
Mhm.
that. And even like what podcasting, I didn't even know what podcasting was. My teacher, my eighth
Mhm.
grade teacher, had to tell me, Sean, there's something called podcasting. I love talking about wrestling, so she was just like, since you like to talk a lot, just do a podcast. I'm like, how do you start that? And I was like, okay. And then ever since then, I've been doing podcasts. But like I said, this time, I wanted to do something that was very different, unique. I guess I'm just so glad for having you here. I'm not sure if you have any questions for me. That if you have any questions for me, I'm trying to think of some. I'm trying to think of more questions to ask you since you're here.
Yeah, yeah. Um, no, I mean this is a great opportunity for you
Hmm.
and for me because this is the first time I've done this. So you know, and I don't have a problem talking either. I just think it's so important. Um, uh, Podcasts and stuff like this. I think it is so important um, sometimes to get it out because a lot of times people go through things or experience things that you didn't even know. And if they have an opportunity to open up and to share it,
Listen.
it's just good
Hmm.
to hear what other people have to say because most people are experiencing somewhat similar situations.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of things out here in this world that people are going through that we don't
You don't know.
um, recognize, we don't talk about, and people don't know
Hmm.
um, how other folks feel,
Hmm.
and how you can overcome. There's so many people have lost their lives, took their own lives because they didn't have an opportunity to talk about
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
They didn't have an opportunity to share. And
Yes.
a lot of people didn't reach their full potential because of that. So can you think about that? All the people that, that's in the cemetery that did not reach their full potential because they didn't have an opportunity to hear somebody
Hmm.
say, you know what, I'm going through the same thing,
Hmm.
or I've been through the same thing, and I made it. So can you? You know,
Yeah.
different world though. I mean,
Different world.
it's different world. I mean, you look in our cities and
Very different.
just all our world,
Hmm.
so many shootings,
Hmm.
death.
Hmm.
It's a
It's a
lot,
lot.
and people are fearful. So the things that we used to do,
We don't do no more.
um,
We don't do no more.
don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, like for instance, I told you, when I was in school, when when I was starting out, when I quit my job and I was delivering paper. Well, I got robbed one time doing delivering
Oh
papers.
no.
But I know today, had that experience happened, I, I, I wouldn't be saying I got robbed. I wouldn't be here probably because it would probably been a killing because people they have upgraded everything, and so
Talk about it.
I got
Talk
robbed
about it.
by exactly. So what would happen is they would have took the money um, and kill me.
Yeah.
So it's a different world
It's
out here.
sad. It really is sad to see.
Yeah.
And I was trying to. Oh, I was trying to think about something that was. I don't know what I was going to say, but it. Like I said, it was just a pleasure having you. I'm trying to think of I was trying to think about some other questions I can ask you while I'm here because I know like you have a lot of insightful things when it comes to education. Oh, what was your role like being a principal? What was your and how, like what was the different thing like what was the different lenses you had to have not just for students but I guess for teachers like what was that like to be a principal at the school?
Well, um, it was it was good. Like again, I retired as a assistant principal, and that's what I had. The last role that I had, well, the last school that I was at, I had an opportunity to have my own building. So it was a K-2 building where I was in charge of that facilities over the teachers, over the
Hmm.
students. Also, I mean, I still was the assistant principal for the school in large, but I had the opportunity to not only run it, but I set it up. So when I got at that school, when I came at that school, rather, um, I was with everyone. It was a K-8 school. The population was so high that we ran out of space, so we had to get another building.
Hmm.
And so, in doing so, I was able to help set up. And so how are you going to do this? So we did K. We started off with K-1, and then the following year we did K-2. But I said I can take on more, and so my principal realized, oh, you can do it. So that's what we did. That was the best 9 years of my life.
Wow.
the best 9 years because I was able when I uh, came into that school, I the kindergartners that were there, um, when they became eighth graders and had their closing exercise, I came in with them and I left with them. So we had those 9 years experience. So to see those children
Grow and
to
evolve.
grow, oh man, it was awesome. Um, but it was the best 9 years
Mhm.
because, like I said, we became a family. So the building that I had, I was able to connect with all the staff, all the students, the parents, the community, because it was a rocky road because one of the issues, it was a predominantly white school. So, and I was only um, at that time four African Americans in the building.
Wow.
It was the computer teacher was African American, the dean was an African American, and the secretary African American, and then I came on board. Um, I think the secretary and I came the same time. We were, and then to be within the community, um, to be out to see the parents' reaction to this administrator with their kids. Um, Very welcoming. There was sometimes when there were issues, but it wasn't. I think what happens in society, and this is depends on the makeup of an individual. If a person know that you care about their child, they can care less what color you are, unless they really have a lot of biases or they're really racist.
Hmm.
They can care less. Uh, if you care about my child, you know, I, I, I got you. I will support you. I will do whatever I can for you, and that's what I saw. That's the experience I had. Um, I loved it. I had an awesome. That was a time. That was a good time to go out on top because I had a good experience there. Um, I went off topic. What was my question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, it was just I guess your experiences as a principal. That's what it was.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So that was that was it.
yeah.
The beginning part of it was Rocky Road because the school that I became a teacher,
Okay,
I was only an AP there for 1 year,
okay.
and then I had to leave, uh, and then I went to various schools every year.
Hmm.
Every year I had a different school,
Okay,
so I've been in a lot of schools.
okay,
The last school I was at was the school I stayed for 9 years. That's why I'm saying it was a great time.
okay,
But I've been to a lot of schools. I worked with the assistant superintendent at one time for like 9 months.
okay.
No, something like 8 or 9 months. That was a good experience. But getting laid off, that wasn't fun. And to get laid off as an administrator to be told you can't go back into the classroom, it's crazy. So that was it. But it was anything you do, you're gonna have challenges. Anything you do, you have a challenge. Right now, I've experienced a challenge as a pastor. There's a thing I'm dealing with now. So you in life, I think you grow with each challenge.
Mm.
You just got to go through it, and you just take it as it comes.
The last question I have for you is that so for anybody that's listening, I think you can go to the rising seniors that's about to go to college, including myself. Anybody that's going into education, like at any age. I guess anybody that's starting out, I guess they're probably kindergartens. They probably going to even hear this anyway. But but I guess anybody that's going into some form of education, going to a new grade, um, or like just going to like a higher level of education. I guess it's like a two-part question then. First, I guess in education in general, like high schoolers, like the eighth grade, like in school, and for anybody that's going into like the higher education, like kind of like you have like encourage your words for them since you have like a little bit of experience of like what do you think? Okay.
focus. It's just stay focused. Every individual, every situation is
Mm,
different. And you don't want to put everything in a. I don't want to put things in a
okay.
box because there's some experiences that people will have that I didn't have to face. And so you just got to figure it out. But I mean, if you're determined to do well, you just got to keep at it. Like I said, I went to school. I went to three schools at one time. It sounds good now and it sounds difficult, but back then, because I wanted to do it, I had a goal. It didn't bother me. I just did it. It was just like I just kept doing it. So you go to three different schools, you work two different jobs because you have a goal mind and you know that it's not going to be like this always.
Mm, I like that.
And then it's a good thing because even now when I'm going through things, I also know that it's not going to be like this always.
Hmm.
You're going through it now, but it's not going to be. So you just got to be determined to get, do your best. And it's not trying to be, it's not trying to be the A student. It's just trying to be a good student and receive everything to sharpen the skills so that you can be useful for whatever you want to do. And whatever you want to do it, do it because even if people say, well, there's no money in that. Well, if you can make money out of it, there are people that make a lot of money doing what you're doing right now. But there's people that make a lot of money um, doing a whole lot of stuff. Um, but that's because they have the desire to do it.
Mm. Passion.
So,
They put passion.
yeah, you gotta have a passion, and a lot of times you may start off with you're not getting anything, but later on it will pay off. It'll pay off. So just, do, you know, all you can to do and to please yourself, not try to please anybody else because we have a whole generation or two that have been pleasing everybody but
Mhm.
themselves.
And they feel miserable
You
because they
know,
don't know how to.
they're miserable. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm so grateful for you to have this time opportunity to talk to you. Like, just like you said, stay focused, stay motivated, and even if you don't know what to do yet, just try to find something that you love. Try to find something that you're motivated for. Don't try to be like everybody else. Don't go to college because your friend going to that college. Don't do that because you may not want that college. So go find something that you want. And like I said, thank you again so much. Thank you to all the Chat and Chill listeners. I hope you are all well or in morning, afternoon, evening, night. And I guess I'll talk to y'all in the next episode. I love y'all much. Enjoy the rest of y'all day.
All right.
Bye.
Peace. Bye bye. Thank you.